Check. All right. Let's see what we got here. Let's go that. All right. Okay. Let's get my earpieces in. Sorry, guys. Bear me 1 second. All right. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining this Sunday evening. Right. Okay. So you probably guessed by the thumbnail and by the title of this, I want to talk a little bit about Binance and the ban in the UK. I know that there will be a lot of questions around what this actually means if you're using Binance. I just want to give a few thoughts and maybe a couple of warnings and stuff like that as well that I think will be relevant to what's going on right now. I also want to talk a little bit about, the FCA, what they're there to do, why they might be taking this approach right now. I also want to maybe just show you a few little bits around due diligence and stuff like that as well. So look, I was looking at this through this afternoon, and this actually came to light. Well, the changes on the FCA register happened on Friday, this last week. The news has only just come out this evening. Now, to be honest, I think some of the tabloids have been very sensationalist around how they've decided and chosen to word this. And again, it's for clickbait. It's for, I don't know, for views and reads, I guess. But one of them says Binance given the boot by UK financial watchdog. Another one says Bitcoin exchange by Binance banned from UK as crypto fund frauds double. I will speak about that because that is a big reason why they've taken the stance that they have. Yes, it is questionable as to whether or not they should have started with someone like Binance or not. But I'll also show you some of the tweets as well that Binance have put out in the meantime and their stance. And I guess at the end of the day, you've just got to wait for further information to come out from them as well. So please take this with a pinch of salt. Right. So what's basically happened? Now, I'm just going to share my screen with you because you should be able to see this. Let me know if you can't. This is the headline that I do not like. I don't like this headline at all. Binance given the boot by UK financial watchdog. That's not really what's happened. Okay, they've not been given the boot. If you are using Binance at the moment, it doesn't mean that you can no longer use them. There is no threat to what you hold with them. There is no threat to the business that you're going to be able to do with them moving forward. There just absolutely is not. There is something very, very clear and very, very specific that the regulators have done. Now, before I show you exactly what they have done, I think it's really important because the crypto heads, the Bitcoin and crypto advocates will be cussing to high heaven about the FCA. And I get this a lot. I've spoken about the FCA and how important they are in terms of regulatory frameworks, keeping people safe, holding companies accountable. I've spoken about that a lot. It just feels as though whenever we speak about the regulators in relation to Bitcoin or trading, people feel as though they're being cheated. And I think it's really important just to kind of take a step back and actually think about what the FCA is there to do. The FCA is there to basically protect consumers and to ensure that the financial system has confidence. so that it can continue to operate for the benefit of everybody. It's not about individual companies, it's not about individual people per se. So that's what their job is. Now, we've already alluded to the fact that, and I'll throw these numbers out there because I think these numbers are very, very important. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the news this week, but the Met Police seized £114 million in cryptocurrency this week. And that is under the fears that this money is used, well, it's basically money laundering, which has always been something that has been leveled at cryptocurrency as one of the things that the regulator doesn't like. The fact that it could be used on the dark web, the fact that it can be transferred and moved around really without trace. I know crypto heads will argue, well, no, you've got wallets. People will argue that everything's verified on the blockchain. Okay, I get that. But still, cryptocurrency is outside the financial system. So as far as the regulator is concerned, they cannot track transactions. So the 114 million that was seized this week was because there is evidence to say that that money, it's a product of dirty money, money laundering, which we cannot have. You have a look at crypto assets being seized. I think the biggest one globally was in the States for about 3 billion quid. Now, with that all set aside, we then get into the number of frauds that have been popping up to do with cryptocurrency. So I obviously highlighted one last week around the digital yuan website, which basically updates the day that the yuan was launched every single day. If you go onto that website right now, I'm sure it will tell you that it's June 27th when it was launched, when actually, well, it's just a moving target. I highlighted that last week. We know that Watermine went pop a couple of weeks ago with God knows how much as an exit scam. We know that they've just started up as King Finance. So there is a huge increase in the number of cryptocurrency scams. If we look back over the last 18 months, there was a report that said that crypto scams in the last 18 months were only about, and I say only, it's still a big number, 600 to 800. Okay, 600 to 800. That's still a lot. Recent numbers have seen crypto scams increase from that number, so 600 to 800 to 8,000. This is really, really popular. Why? Because there are opportunists out there who are taking advantage of Bitcoin doing really well this year and the buzz around crypto to basically scam people out of money. So if you want to think about, right, so where is the FCA, where's the regulator coming from? Have that in the back of your mind as the premise of what they're looking at. I had a chat with them on Monday this week, and I highlighted the whole digital yuan website and all that kind of stuff. And they said, we know that this is a thing. We're collecting information. But again, these companies aren't all companies that are registered here in the UK. And I'll go through some of this in a minute because that's a really important point. And you should never be investing money in a company that does not have a registered business entity here in the UK. Right. So what's actually happened? So I'm just going to share my screen again. I'm going to take you onto the FCA website because you'll be able to see this for yourself. And again, you can do your own research with this. So this is the FCA website. If you go onto Google, if you go on to register, and this is part of due diligence, guys, you would do this with any company that you're trying to invest in. So I've had a look at Binance today. You need to do firm, you need to do search. So when you do that, Binance Markets Limited is what's registered with the FCA. So this is their reference number here. You click into that. And what you'll find here is you'll find restrictions and permissions. So what you want to do is you want to click here. Right. Now, this was added on, like I said, on the 25th. So this is Friday. So restriction on activities. We click more information here. These are the restrictions that the FCA are now imposing on Binance. And they have released, like I said, a couple of tweets, which I'm going to walk you through as well, in terms of their response to what the FCA have literally just done as of Friday, which made the news today. So let's not worry about this top section. Let's talk about these clauses right here. So this is the first one. The firm must not, without prior written consent of the FCA, carry out any regulated activities for which it has Part 4A permission with immediate effect. Now, Part 4A, don't worry about the definition for that, but essentially what it means is trading activities, okay? So think about it this way. Cryptocurrency is not a regulated asset class here in the UK. However, trading activities are. And this is the argument that I always level when we talk about cash FX and when I have spoken about cash FX in the past. They are providing or facilitating a trading activity. So trading activities are a regulated activity. What this is basically saying is that they no longer have permission without prior consent from the FCA to carry out any regulated activities, which includes trading. Now, the FCA are typically very, very specific when it comes to these kind of clauses. So this is what they're telling Binance to do. So by the close of business on the 30th of June 2021, the firm must display in a prominent place on the website Binance.com and any other communication channels or social media, including but not limited to the Binance mobile and desktop applications, a notice stating Binance Markets Limited is not permitted to undertake any regulation activity in the UK. Due to the imposition of the requirements by the FCA, Binance Markets Limited is not currently permitted to undertake any regulated activities without the prior consent of the FCA. So they have to put this on their website. And again, they are very, very prescriptive around when they have to have this done by. If I just go to this one right here, makes it a little bit more clear. The firm must provide written confirmation of the steps it has taken to meet the requirements set out in clause 1.1-2 and point 3 to the FCA by close of business on the 30th of June. That is in 3 days' time. So that's going to be on Wednesday this week. So what does that actually mean for you guys if you are using Binance? Essentially, if you are just buying cryptocurrencies with Binance, you are buying Bitcoin or Ethereum or Cardano or any other coin, and you're just buying it to hold, nothing changes. Absolutely nothing changes. If you're using it to trade, though, this is where those permissions have been withdrawn. They're not allowed to trade. So you won't be able to use them to trade cryptocurrencies if that is what you're doing. Essentially, that's what it means in a very, very brief nutshell. Now, obviously, the tabloids have sensationalized this, as you would expect them to. But let's have a look at some of the tweets that they've actually put out. And again, so this is the one thing that I do like about how they've actually approached this. They've seen this news. I'm sure there's been news to them today, and they have immediately responded. Now, oh God, I hate doing comparisons like this, but Cash FX, despite all of the criticisms that have been labeled at them and thrown at them by myself and a ton of other people on YouTube, have they ever put out a tweet like this? Absolutely not, because then in my mind, they're not a company that's operating on a legitimate basis. So this is what Binance is saying. We're aware of recent reports about the FCA UK notice in relation to Binance Markets Limited, so BML. BML is a separate entity and does not offer any products or services via Binance.com website. This is one of four. The Binance Group acquired BML May 2020 and has not yet launched its UK business or used its FCA regulatory permissions. For questions related to BML, please contact compliance@binance.uk. So if you are using them, I would strongly encourage you to literally email them. If it's going to be a big concern for you, they'll be able to answer these questions obviously a lot clearer than I can or anybody else can here on YouTube. But the good thing here is that they are actively asking you and giving you an avenue to interact with them and ask them questions. Why? Because they are a legitimate business. They're not just some company out God knows where, just trying to basically pretend as if it's a legacy business or something like that. Right. So part 3, the FCA UK notice has no direct impact on the service provided on Binance.com. So this is, I don't know about this. This is a questionable one. So I understand what they've done with BML, because I read about this a bit earlier on. They acquired a company that already had permissions in order for them to be registered here in the UK. Now, this is maybe a little bit of a... So Binance.com, I would imagine, a worldwide website. Now, what the FCA have said here is that they are not allowed to provide any regulated activities to UK customers. The question here will be, how are they going to differentiate on Binance.com their UK customers? Because by the strict letter of what the FCA have said here is that even if you are on Binance.com, and they've just said here that it has no direct impact on the services provided on Binance.com, could they still be in breach of FCA rulings like this, saying you should not carry out any regulated activities for or to UK customers? This they will have to work out, because that is a massive gray area. If they're saying that there is no direct impact because Binance.com is a separate entity or separate business, that still, in my mind, doesn't absolve them of the responsibility that they have to adhere to this clause or this restriction to provide trading activities to UK customers. They may, as a business, and they would be fully within their rights to be able to do this, say, actually, you know what? BMO is a separate entity. Binance.com is a separate entity. Yes, we do have UK customers and UK people who are using us. However, your ruling says specifically that BML cannot provide activities. So from a legal point of view, and I'm sure they'll have lawyers that will have a look at this, they will come to a decision as to whether this ruling they feel should be applied to Binance.com, I guess, is where my head's at. Again, I'm just speculating here, so don't shoot the messenger or anything like that. I don't know that for sure, but that's what I would be looking at if I was in that business, thinking, right, what does it mean? Because if they're two separate entities, you're telling us we can't do it under one entity. The main entity over here, Binance.com, is not subject to that. I think as a business, though, they are really, really keen. They're one of two. I don't know who the other one is. They're one of two crypto trading companies that has actually registered and applied with the FCA to be authorized and regulated. One of two. I don't know who the other one is. And this is where, this is really important stuff. So typically, what they have basically done is they acquired a business that already had these permissions. So in opposed to coming along and starting afresh, they paid good money to acquire a business that already had these permissions. So they've already invested money to get those permissions. So I don't know what's going to happen here. I guess if you are watching this and you are using Binance, then this email address is the best email address for you to contact to have a conversation and ask questions of them. We'll know more on Monday in terms of what their general outlook is and what their response is going to be. Like I said, they could quite happily, upon legal counsel, just say, you know what, doesn't apply because we're doing it via Binance.com. But remember, in the FCA warning here, it did actually say that it does also. It needs to be placed prominently on Binance.com as well. So again, just to reiterate, if you are using Binance, what does this actually mean? If you are buying cryptocurrencies and all you're planning to do is to buy, hold, sell it later on, no change whatsoever. It is business as usual. If you've been trading, then there's potentially going to be an impact because they are not authorized to provide trading services for cryptocurrencies to UK customers. I know that they did have a recent, I think the same happened in Canada recently, and I think they had an incident in Japan, so this has followed suit. But look, if you're buying stuff because you want to hold it, you'll be absolutely sweet. Don't worry. I will say this, though, and this is where people should be very, very careful. So whether you're watching this live or whether you're going to watch this on playback, be mindful that the scumbags are going to be all over this, right? There will be some guy in a den somewhere thinking about, okay, this is a great opportunity, who will then launch another crypto trading platform with, I don't know, offer of ridiculous returns, 2 or 3% per year. We're thinking, well, if you're a Binance customer and you're not able to trade with us. Please be careful of this, because these guys are they're obviously very, very clever and very, very astute. And ultimately, you want to make sure that you're not going from one really big company that's set up legally to another, just, I don't know, workshop, God knows, in Timbuktu somewhere, to a guy who's just rubbing his hand in glee because now he's getting all crypto assets transferred over to him, and it's not as secure as what the platform with Binance would actually be. So please just be careful. That's what I'm going to say. I do have some cynicism around this. I'm not going to lie, because, and this is where people will get outraged. This is where people will get annoyed, in the fact that The institutions, the smart money, will still be able to trade cryptos. They'll still be able to short it, long it. They'll still be able to do all of that stuff. This essentially locks retail customers out because guess what? Binance, one of the biggest ones, no longer has the ability to provide regulated activities to UK consumers, meaning you can't trade Bitcoin with them anymore. You can't trade any cryptocurrencies with them anymore. Meanwhile, the institutions, well, they get to have the rules of the house, really, don't they? They get to enjoy and do whatever they want and enjoy the spoils of this with nothing really. I mean, it will impact them a little bit because you need volumes, obviously, but they get to continue as they have been and continue trading as usual. I think people will be annoyed about that. I do have another level of skepticism and cynicism around this in the fact that there is a lot of crackdown, it seems, on cryptocurrency right now out in China. We spoke about that in the video on Friday. You know, them cracking down on their miners, that's wiped off 400 billion off the value of cryptocurrencies total, right? And they've done that because of fears of energy consumption, taking them off their path towards green, their green agenda. Possibly with their digital currency coming along as well. Maybe they're thinking about that too. But on a bigger and wider note than that, you have to think about, and I hate saying this as an industry person, you have to think about the role of the FCA. Yes, it's there to protect people, consumers, but also you have to think about the fact that economies are built on our financial system as it currently sits and stands. Economies are built on that. Like your mortgage, your car loan, your credit card, everything that you have where you've taken out money or have needed money for that, the whole system that has enabled you to have the things that you have is built on a traditional financial structure where fiat currency can be used to either grow the economy, restrict the economy, prevent the economy from growing, because you have monetary policy which you can use from an economic point of view to control things like inflation, interest rates, all these kind of things. Cryptocurrency sits outside of that. And because the FCA is very much part of the traditional financial system, the cynic in me thinks, is this part of a wider crackdown on cryptocurrency? And how bad is it going to get? I think it is. And I think it's only just the beginning. What does that mean for cryptos moving forward? I don't know. I think that maybe it will be more difficult for crypto moving forward, especially as they start to try to bring it into regulation in some way, shape, or form. We know that they can't regulate Bitcoin directly or Ethereum directly, but what they can do is what they're doing right here, which is heavily regulate the companies that you would use to get access to the crypto market and really pretty much tie a noose around them so that they are so restricted in the activities that they can provide that it almost stifles the growth of crypto. That's my fear. I'm not saying that it's not going to be around for much longer. I think, crypto still has a place. I think it really, really does. I think crypto and the blockchain in particular gives us the ability to use them for purposes that we haven't even thought of just yet. But what that means moving forward with everything that's going on and has been happening this year, I really don't know. I think I'm going to reiterate what I said in the video on Friday. If you are invested in crypto, you need to be diversified. You shouldn't be putting all of your eggs in one basket and being like, YOLO, crypto, that's the whole thing. That's the worst thing you could do. You want to be diversified across stocks, across property, across crypto, as many asset classes as you possibly can. But you definitely need to have a strategy for that. And you need to make sure that you understand the risks that go along with it as well. So that's me. I'm going to have a look and see what we've got in the chat here. If there are any questions, let's have a look. By the way, guys, hang on a second. I forgot to do this because I've been on a rant. Where is it? There we go. Make sure you smash the like button. There's 171 of you. There's only 28 likes. Like, there's a lot of you on here. So let's pump that up. Let's really get that up, please, if we can. Let's get that to 80 because there's a lot of you on here and there's very, very few likes on here. Let's have a look through the comments. Spot trade, yeah. Carly said in there, spot trade is okay, but not leverage. All right, James. Glad that this was actually calm because I know that many people would have been looking at thinking, "Oh my god, right? Do I need to close my account? Do I need to move it across to somewhere else? What do I actually need to do?" And this is the thing. Obviously the newspapers need to sell newspapers and they need to get people to click on their stuff, right? But saying that they've given Binance the boot, I mean, you're just sensationalizing something that doesn't need to be sensationalized. So yeah, hopefully that has helped, James. So. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, Carly, if you just buy and you sell, you're absolutely fine. But trading, you won't be able to do any futures. You won't be able to do derivatives. You won't be able to do. You won't be able to leverage either. How are they going to know if I'm trading or holding? What if I hold for a week and want to sell? How long is the hold period? That I don't know. That will be a conversation that you need to have with Binance if you're using them. Basically because I've got a Binance account, it will basically mean that I would imagine Binance will make a section where you go in to actually trade. They'll probably make that unavailable to UK customers, so they can use sort of geolocation to differentiate who you are and where you are. And maybe a tip for this, and I don't know whether I should be saying this or not, is for you to get a VPN. If you can change your location, maybe you might get access to the trading functionalities if Binance, according to this push by the FCA, just decide to basically restrict the trading side of the website. If you've got a VPN, you can log yourself in as being in Canada or the States. You might be able to get around that. I don't know if I say that or not, but just a thought. All right, there's something going on with my connection. Bear with me. There we go. I think I'm back. Diamond hands, James. Thank God for that. Clarifying the dumb, but that's cool. Yeah. Listen, I hate, I understand why they use like these kind of words, regulated activities, right? It sounds all complex and stuff like that. But just say, look, you are not authorized to do this. So the general public, like, if the general public want to go and have a look at this kind of stuff, what does regulated activities mean? It could mean anything. Like, it's just terminology for the sake of terminology. It's one of the things that I don't like about my industry. It's like, we just use these phrases. Like, what does that actually mean? Like, seriously, just use plain English. I don't get why they don't, but also I understand why they do use those languages to make it sound more complex and easier for people in the industry to understand. Not really giving too much care for the general public who will be seeking out this information as well. I mean, I had a chat with the FCA this week, and they are in no way, shape, or form prepared or ready for any of this. They're just not. They're nowhere near ready for any of this stuff. The woman said, "We're trying our best." I'm like, you need to do something. You really need to do something. Like, you need to either recruit more people or, and you question what they do on a day-to-day basis. It frustrates me. Let's put it that way. I wouldn't say it's all FUD, mate. I mean, look, it's all factual at the end of the day. They are restricting their permissions. That is factual at the end of the day. I think, whether the tabloids obviously will do what they do because they need to sell papers and stuff. I think as retail investors, it is incumbent on you, on us, to go and find out the information that you should be paying attention to, which you're doing right now by watching this live stream, right? But at the end of the day, I think one thing we need to kind of always be mindful of is that the FCA does not care about individual. That's not their job. That's not what they're there to do. They are there, and I said this in the video. I did this. I think probably said it on the video on Tuesday. The FCA is there to regulate the businesses that operate in the financial space, not you. So they don't care about you. What they do care about, though, is they care about the things that the businesses they are responsible for regulating. They care about what they do, and by caring about what they do, it inadvertently benefits you with some levels of protections that, to be honest, in the Western world, we completely take for granted. I mean, how nice is it that if you put your money with, an institution, you can have, £85,000 worth of coverage? Like, seriously, you go to other countries where they don't have that. They'll think that this is, a godsend. It's one of those things that they don't care about individuals. They care about the system that they are almost guardians of, and making sure that the companies that operate within that system are operating on a legal basis. And yes, some of them they make, but it goes back to the old adage, you cannot please everyone. What they try to essentially do is they try to implement things that hopefully will benefit the majority. And when you look at it from that point of view, some people are going to be annoyed, or it won't suit some people. It is the way of the world, unfortunately. It is that they're not in control. What are they supposed to control, though? The whole point of them doing what they do at the moment in terms of all the regulatory stuff and all the regulatory work that they do is to control these businesses. And the way that they control these businesses is by putting very, very strict guidelines on, where if they break rank from those guidelines, do anything that is outside of those guidelines, and they have evidence of it, they go in with massive financial penalties. I've been around in the industry for a very long time. I've been in businesses where they've had the FCA in for an audit. And trust me, everybody from the CEO, I can't say the language, but put it this way, they're a bag of nerves the entire time, because the thought is you are guilty until proven innocent, not innocent till proven guilty. They're going in there to find something wrong. If you've done something wrong as an organization, and there are a host of things, you might think, okay, I've done a few things that are wrong right here, I can cover my back. Trust me, these guys go through things with a fine tooth comb. If they find anything, the fines that these guys hand out are in the millions. People lose jobs over this stuff. It doesn't always make the news, but trust me, these guys are very, very heavy handed. That's how they get control, because it's by, for a better word, basically putting the fear of God in these companies to say, if you step out of line, there are some serious consequences. Why are they doing that? To protect consumers. That's really the primary premise that they actually have in doing that. Unfortunately, they can't control absolutely everything. It's impossible to do that. Isn't the UK trying to bring out its own digital currency? Seems a bit suspect by our government to me. Well, mate, we're not going to be bringing out a digital currency for a good number of years. I don't even think that we even have the process in place at the moment. They're trying to call it Bitcoin or something like that. That will be, if they're able to deliver that in the next 3 years, I will be absolutely astonished. But the reality is that from a governmental and from a financial system, I cannot stress this enough, guys. You have no idea how much of a threat. Whilst it's all sexy and it's great, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency has a massive threat to our financial system. And you may not care about this, which it's fine if you don't, but you will care when it means that you can't get a mortgage, you can't borrow the money. And this is where DeFi really comes into it. And this is where, if the traditional financial system were not to work, DeFi could be the savior, but that's still very much in the early days at this point in time. You're going to have massive consequences if you have an asset where, I mean, what I was looking at a chart earlier. Apparently, where are we now? In June, in May, Binance had inflows of 1.4 trillion. 1.4 trillion. It's a huge amount of money. And if you think about the fact that all of that money sits outside regulatory control right now, which for the FCA and the regulators across the world, it's not just the UK, the states are thinking exactly the same thing, could be money laundering. It could be money that could be used for nefarious purposes, which is fact. You may not agree with it. You could be a crypto head and not agree with it. I'm telling you what the regulators around the world are thinking. This is factual. This is what they're thinking, which is why they're taking these steps. We may not agree with it all day long. We might argue to the cows come home. That's not going to change the way the regulators see this. But fundamentally, there is a huge risk that crypto has to the financial system that our economy is built on. If there's any risk to that, governments are going to fight tooth and nail to preserve the traditional system. Why? Because if they don't, and the system were to fail, that's your house, that's your pension, that's all of your investments, that's everything. This is monumental stuff. We talk about it like it's all like, oh, happy, this is great, and all this kind of stuff. But really, 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 it is a huge, huge risk to our traditional system. And are you going to move from the traditional system that's been around for hundreds of years to something new? Not without there being some friction, not without there being some kind of adjustment, regulation. It has to be regulated in some way. I just don't know how it will be regulated because it's impossible for me to see that. I don't know. And I'm not a crypto expert that can even begin to speculate on how it could be brought into the financial system when the core purpose of crypto was to be outside the financial system in the first place. It's a really, really big task and a big deal that we're talking about here very nonchalantly. It's not necessarily a private company, Dark Mike. It's actually part of there are a number of layers when it comes to the financial services and the protections that you have. So you've got the financial services compensate, you've got the Financial Conduct Authority, you've got the Prudential Regulatory Authority, then you've got the Bank of England. Those three entities sit together. So whilst it might be a limited company, it is part of the government structure per se. It's not run to a company director's benefit at all. Let's have a see and see what we've got. This is a good question. I hold thousands of XRP held just to keep for the future. Is my account safe just to hold? Yeah. Craig, you don't need to do anything. If you've just bought a load of stuff and you're going to, hold it and sell it later on, this does not impact you at all. It won't impact you in any way, shape or form. It's literally if you're trading Bitcoin or trading cryptocurrencies on a day-to-day basis, those activities are no longer permitted for UK citizens. I thought you could get around it as it's your ID that you register, states your company. Diamond hands though, as I hate FUD. So much thanks for clearing that up. Cheers, Doug. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure there will be someone who will come up with some kind of great way of circumventing this whole thing so you can still have access to it. Which I'm sure Binance will not actively or openly encourage, but I'm sure they will more than welcome those workarounds. The thing is with tech, there's always a workaround when it comes to tech. So at the end of the day, whilst it might be a bit of a pain, I'm sure there'll be a workaround in a month or so's time. Privately, a lot of major investment and brokering firms complain to FCA and government contacts about the rise and popularity of cryptocurrencies and fear of stock investment withdrawal. Yeah, I mean, look. Yeah, I can imagine that they did. Like I said, I mean, they took in 1.4 trillion. That's no joke. So that's money come from somewhere, right? Now, whilst a lot, right, so 1.4 trillion has gone to Binance. That's just to Binance, though, right? We're not counting other trading apps or other crypto providers. That's just Binance. So I can definitely see where if, for example, I'm not saying that they've done this, a massive investment house, BlackRock, they see outflows, right? They see outflows. and they know where the money is going. They know if it's going to your personal account or they know if it's going to another provider, because you provide that information when you ask for the money to go, right? They know where it's going. So I can definitely see that actually if they've seen like 800 million move from them to Binance, for example, they'll be like, hang on a second, this is unregulated stuff. And they're looking at it from, an industry uh, sort of inward view where it's like, no, hang on a second, we're regulated. We have to like tick all of these boxes, all this kind of stuff. They pay huge fees to be able to operate. Then all of this money is going over here. Not only have they lost assets under management, is going to somewhere where actually the provider that it's going to has not had to play to the same rules that they're having to play to. There's a bit of sour grapes there, maybe, right? So I can definitely see that they would have complained if they've seen a lot of outflows into things like crypto. Absolutely. Just to clarify on this, so futures are no go and trading is okay, and spot. Trading and futures are a no go. Spot is fine, from my understanding. But again, just make sure there is let me just grab the email address actually. I don't know if I can. Yeah, I can. Let me see if I can copy it off Twitter, and I'm going to pop it in the chat. This is the email address that Binance have basically asked people to contact them on. Will it do it? Hang on one second. What's going on? Yeah, there we go. So there's a link in there. So if you have any questions, because I don't know the answer to all of this, obviously I don't work for Binance. Ping them an email. I'm sure that they'll be inundated, and I'm sure that they'll be doing something this week to kind of help, obviously, dispel and provide clarity. But by all means, drop them an email. And MC, thank you so much for that super chat. Really do appreciate it. Thank you. Let's have a look and see what else we have here. All right, let's have a look at this. Bit off topic. He's warned. I'm a uni student investing £100 on free trade. I know there is a 12,500 capital gains allowance, and then after I plan to get an ISA stocks and shares account. Okay, mate, you should need to start with your ISA first. Start with your ISA first. Anything your ISA will not use up your capital gains allowance. So you need to do ISAs first, fill up your ISA, and then go into a general investment account and then use your capital gains allowance. Don't do it the opposite way around. That's very, very inefficient what you're thinking about there. So start with your stocks and shares ISA first. Your capital gains allowance will still be intact. If you are lucky enough to fill up your £20,000 ISA allowance, then move into a general investment account where you can start to use a 12,500 capital gains allowance. There's a follow-up question that you have in here. What point do you recommend declaring to HMRC? If you get it into an ISA, you don't need to do anything at all, because they track it by your national insurance number. So when you open your account with Free Trade, you go into an ISA, for example, they will let HMRC know that you've opened an ISA account. So because they do that for you, you don't do anything. So again, start with your stocks and shares ISA first. Craig, thank you again. You know what? I almost said Craig David there, mate. Craig Davies, thank you for that super chat, mate. Appreciate it. Thank you. I'm just looking for the other one. How is this going to work for liquid swaps and all that? Good question. I mean, they've said that they cannot carry out any regulated activity. So swaps, trading, futures, derivatives, the whole thing, they're not allowed to do. So off that, I think they would have to stop all of that as well. I'm not sure though, but there's an email address. Let me just pin this actually to the top of the chat. You're better off asking Binance directly, because honestly, I don't know. Just by what I've read today, I would imagine that they will have to stop that as well, but I don't know for sure. You need to get a little bit of a clarification. Sorry, I was just having a look at this, and I just want to just be make sure I get this right. Declare my assets and gains on free trade to HMRC. If it's under several thousand, should I even bother declaring, and then begin declaring nearer 10k? If you go with your ISAs, you don't have to do anything, mate. So just start with your ISA first. It's a £20,000 allowance, so do that. Focus on that, and then worry about capital gains once you fill up your ISA. It will just give you less things to think about um, starting out. See, I disagree with that, and I think obviously that's your opinion. But I've been in the industry long enough to know what these people are like, and the rigorous checks that they put companies through just to simply operate to offer anything to consumers. Like even as an individual being regulated, they go through everything, like your financial history, everything. We have fit and proper tests. That's no joke, mate. That's not to protect any hierarchical system or anything like that. That's to protect consumers because they don't want the wrong people given advice or operating in an environment that is swamped with money that may then have access to money and start siphoning off themselves. Like I don't mean this to sound judgmental in any way, and obviously everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but I think that that kind of thought of, oh, they're just there to protect the hierarchical system, that's a cop out in my view, because unless you're in it to understand what these people are like, it's really, really, really tough. Really, 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 really tough. If it was all about just protecting the hierarchical system, they'll just be like, you know what? If you want your license, it's 100 grand. There's a thin piece of paper. That's all you need to do. Crack on. And they won't go and check on any businesses because they know that, well, we've just got the system and everything all set up. Sod the consumers, mate. Don't we need to worry about that. Trust me, it is not like that. It is freaking hard. It is so hard to be regulated by these guys, which is why a lot of these new businesses don't even want to go down that route, because they will literally pull up the floorboards on you. And I cannot overstate it. It's proper hard what they ask people for, the detail that they ask people for as well, and the continual checks that you have to do. When I was advising, they would check my credit score every 3 months to make sure I wasn't in negative debt or I wasn't struggling with debt. And if I was, I'm off. Like, that isn't to protect the hierarchical system. That's to make sure that I'm not giving bad advice to someone and giving bad advice, lying to the person because I'm desperate for money. Like, that's not to protect anybody else apart from the consumer. Did I like it? Absolutely not. Did it make me nervous? Absolutely. Because it's like someone's basically taking a fine tooth comb through my finances every 3 months. It's horrible. It's horrible to think of. And you can't think about missing a credit card payment. What, missing a credit card payment in this industry? No. A late payment? No. Like, you risk losing your job. Like, you cannot advise. Your livelihood is gone if you do those kind of things. It's really, really tough what they do. There's a conversation on here about Bitcoin. Actually, you know what? This is not the new excuse, mate. And people won't remember 9/11 or anything like that, right? Money laundering is a huge problem in this country, right? Because at the end of the day, what you think about how people actually generate their cash, the proceeds of crime, so on and so forth, that's a very serious thing. It's not a joke. And it's where that money goes and what that money is used for. You may laugh and think that's just a new excuse, like, it doesn't mean anything. But when you think about real world consequences, this money goes to child trafficking. It goes to child prostitution. It goes to trafficking women for prostitution purposes across Europe, across the UK. This is no joke, mate. Like, seriously, you think it's very kind of like, it's a new excuse. In the real world, these things have consequences. Those words, money laundering, has real impact on real people. And there's a reason why they're looking at it so seriously, because at the end of the day, it's not about the things that you don't necessarily see. Trust me, They don't just come up with, we need to have money laundering regulations out of the blue. There is a reason why, and they include law enforcement with this. There is a reason for everything that they basically do. It's not just some nonchalant thing that they try and make up to prevent people from trading and making money. It's not about that. It's not about protecting one person. It's about protecting the masses. There's a question here. Don't know about this, but is the 12,500 capital gains allowance separate from salary or including salary? It is separate from salary. So your salary has a separate personal allowance, which is called the personal allowance, which is 12,300 per year, which means that you can earn up to £12,300 per year before you start paying income tax. That's separate to your capital gains allowance, essentially. So your capital gains allowance will be on investments or anything that you buy that appreciates in value, property, for example, as well. There's an interesting conversation in here about fiat currency actually dying. May as well actually saying, look at the dollar over the last 50 years. I mean, look, the dollar is an interesting one because the dollar used to be pegged to gold, and that changed in the 70s. I think it was Reagan or something like that that changed it. And this is where you're seeing, real inflation and how it can impact the value of the dollar. The reality is, if it was still pegged to gold, it will have a measure of value for the dollar. But that changed in the 70s. So it's an interesting conversation, though. All right, I think I've almost come to the end. I'm just going to try and catch up. Yeah, I think this is a comment on Binance. I mean, I've got a Binance account. Their interface isn't the friendliest. It's not the easiest to use. It can be quite daunting when you get in there. You're like, oh my god, like whoa, there's a lot in there. But yeah, things like verification. If you tried it a number of times, it may have been a technical glitch. I don't know, but yeah, I think verification is very, very important. To be fair, they are one of the companies that does take KYC, which is know your customer, the ID, and all that verification very, very seriously. There's not a lot of companies that actually do that though. So. There's only 5 companies allowed in the UK. So what happens from here? What do you mean? Give me a bit more context on that because I'm not really sure what you're asking there. I mean, I would look. I think if you're looking at those 5 companies, it would be unfair if the FCA only applied this to Binance. They would have to apply it to all of them. Again, and this is where I am a little bit cynical, and I do have some cynicism. But we've spoken about the financial system here. Like, it's all very well that we talk about it in a nonchalant fashion, but they are looking at, this is the financial system we're looking at here. Really, like this really is the financial system that we're looking at here. The impact is huge, and so there's going to be a natural struggle for control. But what shape that control takes is going to be anybody's guess, because I honestly could not tell you what's going to happen moving forward from here. It's just watch it, and where you can participate, but just by all means, do not put all of your eggs in one basket. Do not do that. You need to think about diversification very, 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 very carefully. What about Trust Wallet? I don't know. What do you mean? What about Trust Wallet? I mean, Trust Wallet's still going to operate. I mean, they're wallet providers, right? Do they provide any trading? I mean, what we've spoken about today specifically for Binance. So I don't know that whether they're looking at Trust Wallet or anything like that will come. I think just pay attention to the news, because there will likely be other announcements around other providers, I would imagine. Maybe not in the next week, but certainly in the future, short term, long term. Is staking considered as trading? Good question, Les. I'm not sure, It's not a... I can see scenarios where it would and would not be. Because staking is kind of like a loan. So from that point of view, no. but I don't know whether under the definitions it would fall under a regulated activity. It might. The definitions that the FCA provide are quite lengthy sometimes, and they're very, very specific. Um, Sometimes they're not too specific or specific enough, which is the annoying thing about the FCA. Like, you read one of their documents, like, what on earth does that mean? And you have to interpret it on your own without any guidance. So I'm not really too sure about whether staking will be considered as trading. It will be interesting. Again, that will be one to ask Binance directly. Yeah, there's another question there from Samuel. Same answer to you, mate. I'm not sure. That would be worthwhile checking with Binance. There's a lot of staking questions. All came in quick succession there. You know what, right? I was asked to do something for Bitpanda, and the website and everything looks really, really cool. I asked for a meeting with one of their team members, and I never got a meeting because, like, whenever I review anything, I like to kind of like have a chat with the people, see what they're like, that kind of things, and then kind of decide whether, for me, right, if a company has people that are people, then that fills me with a little bit of confidence. And like, okay, so if I was a customer, maybe I could actually, it gives me a gauge of what they'll be like to interact with. And yeah, I never got a meeting with their people. So it's interesting you say it was BS basically. Good convo there about staking. Let's have a look at this. Shouldn't people just be allowed to waste their money on anything they want? If it's about protecting consumers, why not ban gambling sites? Gambling sites are heavily regulated, mate. At the end of the day, you can talk all you want about people's choice and stuff, but at the end of the day, why do we have ambulance chasers trying to sue banks for PPI and all of this stuff? The reality is, mate, and this is the harsh truth, that regardless of what you do, when you lose your money, if you feel that you can get some recompense if you say X or say Y, 90% of people will take that. You may be of the 10% that wouldn't, but 90% of people would. And who foots the bill for that? The companies that provided that service in the first place. Regardless of whether you went into it knowing, oh, this is rubbish, I could lose a load of money. When you lose money, it's very, very different. So it's all very well like, oh, I can waste my money. It's my money. But if someone says to you, I've got a chance to get your money back, are you seriously gonna say no? 90% of people will take it up, knowing fully well that they knew what they were doing in the first place when they lost the money, knowing that they didn't do their due diligence. But if their chance comes along for them to claim back their money because they say this or say that, they will take it. And that's why it isn't about people's choices necessarily from a FCA point of view. They will do everything to make sure that whoever it is that's providing you this opportunity that you could waste or lose your money on does not operate into an arena where they have no accountability. It's all about accountability. And it's not your accountability, it's the company's accountability. I'm just looking for some questions on that. I'm just looking at time. I know we're coming up to an hour now. Thinking about moving to Singapore. Got any opinion? Mate, that part of the world is amazing, apparently. I've not been to Singapore just yet. I do want to go. It's on my list. I was speaking to one of my mates today about Japan. We're thinking about doing Japan and maybe Singapore in one trip if we could. But yeah, Singapore's lovely, apparently. Mate, I'll probably move with you at some point. There's a question about what exchange is best in the UK. Mate, there are so many of them. I haven't done any reviews specifically on crypto exchanges specifically, so I can't tell you. Um, Michael, that's a really good, that's a really nice comment, mate. Thank you. Cheers. Appreciate that. Under the FCA, they have only allowed 5 companies in the UK which have passed the regulations. Okay, yeah. So when a company comes to the UK to set up, they have to apply to the FCA to be regulated. That's the legal stance. That's what they have to do, essentially. Um, and in applying for regulation, the FCA will basically they take up the boards on everything. Basically, it costs thousands. I mean, I've heard permission licenses take the cost of them starting 100 grand. It's a lot of money that they have to invest. So yeah, the 5 companies that are here, they will submit to regulation under the FCA. And again, it's all about parameters, regulations. It's all about having directives in place to protect consumers and making sure that the companies have to operate in a certain boundary. There was something on there around financial promotions as well. So for financial promotions is all about, okay, so how are you advertising to customers? I know that one thing that the FCA are looking at the moment is trying to basically rein in big tech. So Instagram and Facebook specifically around, are they doing any checks for the ads on all of these scams that have been all over Facebook? I mean, the video that I did on Tuesday, I found the ad for that on Facebook, and it's a scam. So what is Facebook doing to make sure that they're doing due diligence on companies that advertise on their platform? Currently, they have no responsibility whatsoever. The FCA want to change that because they're now acutely aware that all of these scams that have come along and have done exit scams on people, they started on social media. I mean, on my course, I talk about the fact that in 2019, there were 3,385 financial scams, all of which started on social media. I'd hate to think what that number is right now. I'm sure it would have quadrupled by now, probably about 12,000 or so. So someone saying here, it's all about control. It's not about control. It's about protecting people. I don't know. I can't say that strongly enough. And I know that people think that the system's rigged against consumers. And there is, even myself in the industry, I have a level of cynicism, but I think sometimes you have to be in it to see what it's actually like and the things that are required of businesses to operate in this sector. It's hard going. And they really, really, really do hold people accountable. It's not about control. It's about protecting people. All right, okay. I think I've come to the end of it. Yeah, I think I've come to the end of this. No more questions. SES. No, I don't follow every single stock. So unless I have a look at them, there's no comments that I've got on here. Les, thank you for that super chat, mate. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. All right, okay, cool. So it's been an hour and 2 minutes, guys. I hope you found that useful. Yeah, Max is saying on there, lots of scammers on Instagram. Like this, it's a minefield out there. It really, really is. And as much as people are like, oh yeah, only invest what you can afford to lose. Not being funny, mate, but like, it's never just about what you can afford to lose. Not with the way they operate now these days. Like they're so clever. Yeah, it's 150 quid or 180 quid. Start off with that. Yeah, okay, cool. They give you your returns. They rope you in. Then that 150 quid then becomes 1,000. Then it becomes 2,000 and 3,000 and 4,000 because now people start getting greedy. This is all psychological. And, people talk about, people should be allowed to waste money. When you lose money, it's all very well saying that when you've not lost your money. When you lose money, what's the first thing people do? They look for someone to complain to. Who do they typically go to for scams in the financial sector? The FCA. So the same ones that everyone's saying, oh, well, it's just all about control and all that kind of stuff. Those are the same people that you're going to go crying to if you get scammed. So where's the win-win here? So they're damned if they do something. They're damned if they don't do anything. If they don't do anything, it's even worse. Because, by the way, you've not tried to protect consumers. But when they do stuff to protect consumers, it's restrictive. It's seen as almost vindictive because, oh, you're not allowing us to do this. Like, we can't have our cake and eat it. Like, it's a regulated environment for a reason. People are happy to take your money under false pretenses, knowing that they can set up a company in Panama or in the Seychelles or in freaking Greece and have no comeback whatsoever. Why? Because it's easy now online. I can create a fantastic website if I wanted to and be like, oh, we can give you this and give you that. Who's tracking me? Nobody. So if you are going to operate in the UK, you should be heavily regulated, and rightly so. And I'm all for regulation because it keeps the cowboys at bay. The cowboys are still going to be there, but legitimate companies, it's a way for you to verify legitimate companies. And I think that really is the moral of today's conversation, really, to be fair. And like for everyone who's kept skeptical about the FCA, pick up the phone to them. It's an 0800 number. You pick up the phone to them and just say, look, you know, what are you actually here to do? Have a conversation with them. And just see how you feel. But many people won't even take the time. They'll just read stuff in the news or have a chat with their mate down the pub, or the FCA is doing this, blah, 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 blah. The funny thing is, a lot of the people who are putting out all this nonsense about the FCA are the same companies that don't want to be regulated by them. CashF is a prime example. Oh, the FCA is archaic. You know, they're not up to date with all the technology. All right, they may not be up to date with the technology, but guess what? They don't want to be regulated by the FCA. Why? Because they don't want to submit to the rigors of getting regulated and authorized here in the UK. Simply, that is the fact of it all. But anyway, I'm done. I don't want to rant anymore because I do get very, very passionate about this kind of stuff. But guys, I hope you find that useful. Video on Tuesday. There's some exciting stuff happening. Very, very exciting stuff happening. I don't know if I should probably say this a little bit more, but they're not regular slots right now. But on Fridays, you may be able to catch me on Sky 515. Hopefully it will be a regular gig. But yeah, keep an eye out for that. And I might try and do maybe like a compilation or something like that if I'm allowed, and put it on the channel and stuff. So, but guys, appreciate you spending this Sunday evening with me. It is now 10:05. I'm going to go and catch a movie on Netflix or something. Catch you later.